Here's my FPL transfer tips for Game Week 7 along with my reaction to Game Week 6. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start this week a bit differently and talk about the 4 premium midfielders. Now it's just my preference, but I've put them in the order of Pamer, Salah, Saka and Son. I'll start with Pamer and Salah because I think most people can agree they're probably the best two. Now it's very close between Pamer and Salah. I did say in Game Week 3 that I believe Pamer will outscore Salah over the course of the season. 0.66 expected goals per 90 for Pamer, 0.64 expected goals for Salah per 90, 0.3 expected assists for Pamer per 90, 0.23 expected assists per 90 for Salah. Salah's got slightly better minutes and he does have a lot more shots in the box, but I just sway towards Pamer because he's 2 million cheaper. That 2 million enables you to upgrade players elsewhere in your teams. And I look at it this way, I'm trying to find value. Is Salah, for 20% more in price, gonna outscore Pamer by 20% in points? I'm not convinced. It's very close. Salah may just outscore Pamer by the end of the season, but I think it's more likely that Pamer will outscore Salah, and I certainly don't think that Salah will outscore Pamer by 20% unless there's a major injury to Pamer. In terms of Saka versus Son, it's actually quite close here as well because they both have their upsides and downsides. Saka's probably a safer pick and he's more consistent, but Son does have more explosive upside in certain game weeks. Stats wise, obviously Saka does have the edge, especially for assists. Obviously goals get you more points, and I do think Tottenham's attack is slightly better than Arsenal's, so I would actually go for Son in that sense. The reason I've got Saka third at the moment is because he does have consistency, he does have high ownership as well, so if you're looking to play safe, he's a great option. If Son is back from fitness for this game week, which doesn't actually look like it would be the case because he wasn't in the squad for the Europa League game. But if he does, he has 5 great fixtures and he's a great differential at only 6.4% ownership. So that's my verdict on all 4 of them. The chances are that we'll probably rotate these around based on the fixtures throughout the season. Just want to make sure you don't get priced out of any players so that you can always bring them back in if you need them. Okay, so I've got 3 forwards to recommend this game week and I'm going to start with Kai Havertz. If you're looking for a short-term punt and potentially a long-term hold, he is a great option. He's got 0.59 expected goals per 90, which is good for an 8 million forward. And Havertz might actually be a better route into the Arsenal's attack because he's only 8.2 million while Saka is 10.1 million. If you don't know, Havertz did outscore Saka in the last half of last season, so it's not too far-fetched to assume he might do the same this season. Although Saka does get a lot of assists, Havertz does have the goal threat. Saka and Havertz have actually had the same amount of shots, but if you actually look at the shot zones, Kai Havertz is a lot more central, as you'd expect from the number 9, and that just means he has slightly more goal threat. Okay, so I can't talk about an Arsenal player without bringing a Spurs player into the conversation, and I'm going to go with Dominic Solanke this week. While he's only got 2 returns this season, he has been injured for a couple of games, and his underlying stats look really good. He's got great fixtures for the next 5, and in fact, if you actually look, he might be a long-term hold for the whole season. Spurs really don't have blocks of fixtures where the fixtures look tough. So if you want rotation amongst your attackers, Solanke is a great hold for the entire season. Although Brighton have had a pretty good start to the season, they did struggle against Chelsea's press. And Tottenham are actually top of the league for high turnovers this season. Solanke is obviously a big part of that Spurs press, and I think he's going to be rewarded this game week. So to complete the hat-trick of forwards, I'm going to recommend Ollie Watkins this week. It seems all those doubts people had in the first 2 game weeks have gone away very quickly. Watkins has 6 returns in 6 game weeks, and you can't really ask for a lot more than that. On top of that, he's got great stats with 0.71 expected goals per 90. He's playing in a great Villa team who are 6th through expected goals in the league this season. And this week he's coming up against United at home. Now we all saw how badly they defended against Tottenham, and I can't see it going much better for them here. At Villa Park, you'd expect high energy, and you just do not know if that United team are going to cope with that, especially if they go a goal down or they crumble, who knows. I also think he's another one of those players you can just sort of buy him and then forget about him for the season. He's going to start every week. I don't see John Duran breaking into that team ahead of him, unless of course Villa got to a Champions League quarter-final or a semi-final and then he might be rested for that game. But that's a long way down the line, so I think he'll continue to start and get points. To be honest with you, because Solanke and Watkins are so reliable, they are coming into my team very soon. as soon as I can find the funds for them, that is. I do have a plan to do it, but that might be affected by any price rises. So for now, I'm just going to plan to get both of them in, and if I can't, then I'll have to come to that when I come to that. Okay, so my game week 6 reaction. And I've got to say, this is quite a good game week for me, but mainly from one player, and you might have guessed it, Cole Palmer. Now, you might think I'd be happy with that. I did have my captain's armband on him throughout the week, so I am a little bit frustrated that I didn't back him. I switched my captaincy from Saka to Semenyo to Palmer. They all had good fixtures. I sort of was on the fence of who to go with. I had it on each one of them at some point during the week. I wish I'd gone for Palmer now, but obviously that's just hindsight. I'm still happy with the 25 points. And in fact, all of my midfielders this week returned, except my captain actually, which was Saka. Bench Porro, and he goes ahead and gets the clean sheet, but that's just how it is sometimes, unfortunately. It's a little frustrating because it was probably a bad choice on wildcard, to be honest, because I don't think I've actually played Porro yet since I got him in. But I've got to be happy, I got another green arrow. I'm 335k now. And considering that a lot of people ahead of me would have used their triple captains and bench boosts, I don't want to get carried away with rank this early in the season, but it is a good start from me, I believe. So we talked about Palmer a lot this video, but when do you bring him in? There's an argument to be made that you should bring him in this week. Nottingham Forest at home isn't a bad fixture at all, but Nottingham Forest do have a pretty good defence. The argument for bringing him in this week is that you might escape further price rises. In fact, you might be priced out of getting him, or at least having to take hits or having to make multiple transfers to bring him in future game weeks. If you've got Palmer, it's quite simple. He's an easy hold, someone that I will probably be holding for the entire season now. So we've spoken about Watkins already, 6 returns in 6, don't really need to say much more there. His Villa teammate though, Morgan Rogers, that is interesting. He's returned in 2 weeks on the trot. You have the opportunity, it's definitely worth bumping up that 4.5 million midfielder because he is going to get you returns some weeks. Some weeks you might need him for a rotation option, and I think he's a great enabler to fund bigger moves. Biggest news of the week, Haaland has blanked for the first time of the season. So I think he's not a great option now, and you should definitely go out and sell him. I'm of course joking, he's still a great option. He's still going to get consistent braces and hat-tricks throughout the season. I don't see any reason to sell him. Obviously, a great long-term hold. You obviously don't need to be a stat man to see that. Fulham got their first clean sheet this season. I do want to give them a little mention because I didn't recommend Fulham defence at the start of the season. But I think for 4.5 million options, they're actually not bad. I've been fairly impressed. Although they've not got the clean sheets, their expected goals, they're actually performing quite well. Now, Tottenham are starting to click, and there's a big fixture swing for them for the next 5 game weeks. If you don't have a Tottenham attacker like I don't, I think you may be punished in the next few weeks. So I've talked about Solanke, but other options, Brennan Johnson, Son if he comes back fit, they're definitely players that you should be looking at for the next 5 weeks because a lot of other teams have actually quite tough fixtures in the next 5. Obviously had to do a special mention for Delap at Ipswich. He got 2 goals this week, and he actually is not a bad option for an 8th attacker. In fact, because I'm someone with problems on my bench in the form of João Pedro, who looks to be injured long term, Delap might be a short term move that I'll have to make because I need some rotation options on my bench. And he's got West Ham away this week, and that's not a bad fixture because they've not been defending great. So you never know. So while I was thinking I wouldn't want an Ipswich forward this season, it looks like I might be forced into getting one because he's the only one that's sort of in a price range that I can actually reach. So there's my transfer tips for Game Week 7 and my reaction to Game Week 6. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you've enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and stick around for more transfer tips on the weekly.